You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, hold on. Here we go.
What's going on, everyone? This is the My Aggie Nation Podcast, coming to you again from our new little studio hovel inside the Eagle newsroom here in Bryan, Texas. We're still in the process of putting things together. We're still in the process of making this look real pretty, but, you know, it's here. We got the equipment. We might as well use it, so hopefully y'all are enjoying it, and we'll have good things to come. I'm alongside Alex Miller of the Eagle. Alex, what's up, buddy?
Oh, you know... just trying to fight all the oak pollen that's surrounding us in the air.
Oh, it's the worst.
It is the absolute worst.
And we're also joined via the miracle of technology by one Zachary Taylor.
Now, when Alex says he's actually fighting it, are you physically fighting it? Are you out there karate chopping pollen in half? Okay. All right.
I have a samurai sword.
Okay. You're like the Batman when it comes to
Is it
allergy
signed
season.
by Randy Jackson?
No.
Step Brothers reference.
Just out there in the parking lot, just taking it to the pollen.
You want to go do karate in the basement?
Anyway.
Become best friends? All right,
Yeah, I think we did.
Lots of Step Brothers references. Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's really a great movie. So we are so much going on. I mean, especially this weekend, if you don't have something to do in Bryan College Station, that's on you, because there is literally everything you could possibly imagine going on between baseball, spring football, softball,
Track,
professional bull riding. I think is Ring Day this weekend.
Yeah,
Friday. Yeah.
There's something going on at the Expo Center too. That's not.
Yeah, there's a
sports
gun
related,
show.
But yeah, there's a
It's
gun
$10
show going on at the Expo Center.
You're gonna go get maybe you can get another samurai sword.
Jeez, yeah.
Just all about the weapons right now.
No.
An attitude, a nice assortment of knives.
Hey, you can get the gun show for free right here.
Oh gosh. Can we just stop the podcast now? Like, really?
We set him up for that one.
Oh, jeez. Well, all of that to say, not to get Alex, talking about his guns, but all that to say that there's a lot going on. There was a lot going on. I got back last week from New York City, the Big Apple, for the NIT that the men's basketball team was in. So let's start there. Let's start with basketball, because they put a nice little bow on their season. They finished as runners-up in the NIT to a really, really good Xavier team. And the future is pretty bright for them with what they should be coming back. I'm going to start with Alex.
Okay.
What was your take from what you were able to watch? I know you weren't able to watch the first game as much because you were in Austin covering baseball for me. But from that, as the season wrapped up, what was your initial kind of takeaways from that basketball team?
I think for me, we talked leading up to the NIT finals of how we thought A&M was kind of a team of destiny. And I think they were a team of destiny in the end, in a sense of the season could be encapsulated by the phrase "so close." Okay, so close to getting a key non-conference win over TCU that probably would have helped them get into the NCAA tournament. So close to really busting the doors down and beating Kentucky at home in front of a record crowd that would have had, a court storming. So close to getting a win over LSU, a third win over Arkansas, who went to the Elite Eight. So close to winning the SEC tournament and playing their way into the big dance. So close to actually getting that consolation prize in winning the NIT. They were so close in so many aspects, but just couldn't get it done. And you tip your cap to them for, finding a way to fight through a lot of that and making something out of kind of a chaotic season. But, I think for me, too, what I noticed from this team is that, like you said, future's bright. They got a lot of key pieces coming back. Obviously, losing Quentin Jackson is going to be a big loss. But you've got so many guys coming back that have really kind of found their roles through the last 2 months of the season. You think about the way Henry Coleman really started playing down the stretch, and especially guys like Wade Taylor, Manny Obaseki. I mean, Wade Taylor really becoming a scoring threat, Obaseki really increasing his minutes, finding his ways. And then, you start going down the list, just Andre Gordon and Hassan Diarra, Hayden Hefner finding his role. The list goes on and on with guys like Ethan Henderson, Aaron Cash. I think that for A&M, I think the cliche is that you can always use these kind of things as a springboard into next season, but I think that it really is true of this A&M team. And, it seems like the guys have really bought into what Buzz is trying to build himself. I feel like for Buzz's team to be successful, they have to have that buy-in for what he is trying to do, and it seems like they're actually doing that now. Just like from listening to Buzz and what he was saying, the first 2.5 years, he was really just trying to figure out what he had and where this program was going. I think they kind of have their identity now and have an idea of, okay, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, here's how we do it, we know how to do it, and then they're going to try and continue that into next season, knowing they've got a lot of veteran pieces coming back. But obviously, there's still a lot of question marks. They still got to find that big man who can really be the 5, that Josh Nebo type of player that they've been missing. It would probably be good for A&M to find an established point guard. They have guys that can handle the ball and can do it well, but they don't have that true point guard, and now Marcus Williams is in the transfer portal. So I know I just kind of rambled on a monologue, but that's just kind of what I saw as A&M wrapped up the NIT run they had.
Zach, what do you say?
Yeah, I think what they built over that stretch, the last part of their regular season, what they built over the NIT tournament run, that's the first time, really, that Aggie fans have had a chance to see Buzz Williams coach a Texas A&M team in the postseason. The first year, of course, you had the SEC tournament, but then, of course, you didn't have the SEC tournament, because that's when COVID hit, and then last year was mired by COVID. You're stuck in that mess. And so this was really the first chance that Aggie fans got to see postseason Buzz up close and personal. You'd seen how well he could coach in the regular season. You saw the great winning streak and going into it with a hot hand going into the postseason. But how is this team going to react? How are they going to play day in and day out through a grueling schedule that would be a postseason tournament? And so I think what they built over the last leg of the year is going to radiate into next season. Because like Alex said, you got a lot of guys that are going to be coming back. Yeah, you're going to be missing Quentin Jackson. That's a huge one. But, Jalen Johnson is a guy, we didn't even hardly talk about him this year because obviously he got injured in ACL tear. He's hoping to get a medical red shirt that he can come back next season. If he's somehow able to go, that would be humongous for Texas A&M because he was really the big name transfer that had come in before this past season. And then, Hassan Diarra, the guys that Manny Obaseki, the players that you have had that you've been able to build around so far. I think it's really a good nucleus of players that they've got. So all in all, when you look at it, I would say missing the NCAA tournament was a disappointment. A&M really shot themselves in the foot with that 8-game losing skid. Yes, they played great at the end, but if they win one more regular season game, if they had won one more game in that 8-game losing skid, I think they would have had enough. I think that would have been enough for the committee to say, look, yeah, they might have lost 7 of 8, but they ended this way. We need to let them into the NCAA tournament. That, of course, didn't happen. In hindsight, how well they played in the NIT, you can make the argument that, well, maybe they should have been in over some other teams. But yeah, it was a successful season, I think, all the way around, especially ending it on a high note as they did, taking that momentum into the offseason. There were some grumblings, there were some moans and groans, gripes and complaints from the fan base, kind of what is Buzz Williams doing? Is he finally going to right this ship? He's come in, he's been working on building this. Yeah, COVID has really thrown a wrench into stuff, but can he right the ship and get this team to postseason ready? I think he's shown that they're ready to take that next step. Now they need to do that next year. They need to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that I think that you are right, definitely, with they need to find that next big guy, that center that can help supplement Henry Coleman down there, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, be able to do that. I'm not as concerned about the point guard situation because when they were playing so well at the end of the season, they're playing more like what Buzz Williams wants, which is that positionless 1 through 4, basically. And you have guys, as you saw it go on, Quentin Jackson handled the ball a little bit more. Tyrese Radford handled the ball a little bit more. There was even times that Manny Obaseki came in and was able to handle the ball because he plays in that same kind of role that Tyrese Radford does in being able to play 1 through 4 positionless in that system, that they can be the guy that takes the ball up. They can go play on the wing. They can play the high post. They can kind of do any of those things in the system. And I think as Buzz continues to move on and recruit, I think he would like to get more Tyrese Radfords if he can. Those kinds of guys that no matter where the ball is on the court, anyone can kind of slot into any of the positions 1 through 4 and let's go. Let's get the offense going. And I think that Manny Obaseki is going to be huge in moving forward with that. I think you also have a pretty good ball handling point guard in Wade Taylor as well. It's just kind of getting him a little bit more under control and kind of honing in that aggressiveness that sometimes is great, but sometimes causes things to be a little bit more out of control. I think another year in the system with all of these guys, especially having the guys that all these guys that really like each other and really like playing for each other, I think will be huge. If you look at some of the metrics here to close out the season, Ken Palm has them finished at 33, which is pretty good considering that Ken Palm also started the season with them only winning 8 conference games, I think, and they were able to kind of flip that script a little bit. So, yeah, all around good season. Another thing, too, I don't know why the NIT, for this reason, doesn't get more love. And the reason is, that was a really fun experience for those players getting to go to New York. I mean, think about the NCAA tournament. I've covered the NCAA tournament. They were in it, Zach, when you were been around this team. They go to Oklahoma City or Dayton, Ohio, or sometimes you get lucky and go to a big city. But they're there for 4 days, and it's pretty much practice, hotel, game, hotel, practice. That's basically it. They might get to venture out around the hotel to get to a restaurant or something, and that's basically it. They got up to New York on Sunday and ended up staying through Friday. They all, as a team, got to see the Lion King. I know some of the players got to go see like the natural history museums. They did a lot of shopping. The whole team got to go to the Adidas flagship store that was in Times Square. They were saying they were in Times Square. That is as much as a bowl experience as any college basketball player is going to get, in the sense that when football teams go to bowls, they get to go do fun events, they get to play games, have good meals, things like that, get swag. And so I don't know, and I know the NIT is moving from New York next year, at least for the next 2 years. They're going to have a bidding process, but man, that's as fun as it gets for a college basketball player. And I know people want to call it the consolation tournament and you missed out, but if you can make it to that Final Four, that is a fun week. I had a fun week up there covering it. So,
yeah, and the fact that it's older than the NCAA tournament too. I mean, I think that gets lost on a lot of people. Before the NCAA was in action, it was the NIT. But I think it does take a little bit of the luster away when you go away from Madison Square Garden, just the history and obviously everything around you in New York City. So I'm interested to see how much, or maybe how much less attention will be drawn for the fact that it's not at Madison Square Garden. But yeah, and of course you get to see some really good basketball. It really, when you get down to that point, when you're in that Final Four, you're seeing some pretty dang good teams out on the court. I get it that it's looked at as a consolation, as you said, by a lot of folks, but I mean, the game between A&M and Xavier was a tremendous ball game to watch, even if you weren't necessarily a fan of either team. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So let's just end the basketball segment with this. We'll go around the horn and we'll start with Zach. If you look at a lot of these coaches making it to a deep run in the NIT and or winning the NIT, usually springboards a team into making the NCAA tournament the next year. Is this an NCAA tournament team next year as it stands, maybe adding a piece or two from the transfer portal?
For me, yeah, it has to be. It really does, because as I said, there have been a few moans and groans out there about where Buzz Williams was going to take this team. You just got rid of a guy who had taken your squad to 2 Sweet 16s in the last 5 years. And then now, you brought in a dude that's supposed to take you to that next level. Has yet to happen, but I think this year was certainly a good step. They need to make the NCAA tournament next year. I think they will.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, you kind of just look at the landscape of the SEC as well. Man, there's a lot of turnover. How many coaching changes have we already seen? And you think about the contenders that A&M's going to be facing. Kentucky's obviously going to be good. Arkansas is bringing back a lot of guys. But like a team like Tennessee, they lose a lot. LSU has literally lost every single player on their roster after Will Wade got fired. I mean, there's going to be a lot of rebuild around the SEC, and the fact that A&M's got some solid pieces in place, that's going to go a long way. And how many games this year did A&M end up losing by just less than 5-10 points? I mean, could have easily just gone the Aggies' way. I mean, I think next year A&M wins a lot of those games where they may have lost them this year, and a lot of that goes to the experience that A&M brings back compared to the rest of the league.
Yeah, I think if they can go to the transfer portal, maybe get one more shooter and another little bit to bolster the post, especially the offensive side of the post play. Man, I think that is not only an NCAA tournament team, I think it's a team that could win a game or two in the NCAA tournament that still has some room to grow in the years to come. So that puts a nice little bow on basketball. Of course, you mentioned Marcus Williams hit the transfer portal. We'll have to see what happens with that as well. But while I was covering the semifinal game, while A&M was beating Washington State, you were in Austin watching A&M baseball, pretty surprisingly taking it to Texas.
Yeah, we were talking before the game, Travis, and the wind was blowing so hard out to left field, and as much as A&M's pitching had struggled, I was just thinking, man, Texas, they are a great hitting team. This could get ugly potentially. And yeah, Texas scored 9 runs, but A&M scored more because Jack Moss hit for the cycle and Dylan Rock hit a grand slam. I mean, it just everything went A&M's way, even when things were not. And the fact that A&M was able to withhold Texas, and Ivan Melendez had a couple of hits, but he didn't really do much damage. And where Texas made their big punches, it wasn't enough to really overcome what A&M was able to reciprocate on that end at the plate themselves. Jack Moss was fantastic. I mean, legging out that triple there in the 8th. I mean, that was a big win for A&M. You felt like they really were starting to turn a corner, and then of course they come back and they lose the weekend series after that. Man, it's just kind of been a roller coaster of a season for them, game by game too. It's just high highs, low lows. We've talked about the bullpen. It's just all over the place. But yeah, that win over Texas, it was a great atmosphere too.
Last night, talked to Jim Schlossnagle after the big win against a really, really good Texas State team midweek, and there is something to something that he said, and that is this is a team that really enjoys seemingly being the underdog. If you look at going away at LSU to start the SEC conference slate, an 8th-ranked LSU team, and they take that series from them when they were far and away supposed to be the underdogs. They beat Texas when they're far and away supposed to be underdogs, and they were far and away supposed to be the underdogs against this Texas State team, and it was a pretty dominating win other than just the last inning. I think there is something to that, enjoying being in that underdog situation and enjoying that kind of David and Goliath type scenario per se. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. The fact that you're playing an interstate rival adds something else to it as well, especially as Alex mentioned, everything that was going on at Texas and even Texas State for that matter. A lot of these guys grew up playing against one another. The big question is, can you take that success from the midweek matchups and put that towards the weekend series? Losing back-to-back SEC series. I don't know if you could call Auburn and Alabama inferior opponents, but that's going to be some of the best chances that A&M's going to get moving forward based on the teams you're going to be playing. You're going to be playing kind of a murderer's row. Really good teams. You're not going to get Tennessee this year. Schloss talked to us about that, but you're going to be getting the Arkansas, the Mississippis, the Mississippi States of the world. So can A&M make that success that they have in the midweek matchups, at least, especially over these last couple of weeks? Can they put that towards actual SEC play? Also, whenever you're talking about the midweek matchups, you've got the one single game. You don't have to worry about playing for tomorrow. You don't have to worry about saving arms in the bullpen, so to speak. I get that you're not throwing your weekend starters out there, and it might not be who you typically have in the coming out of the pen, but you still have that cushion, I guess, and knowing that you've got a break the next day or two. So it's a little bit different whenever you're playing a series versus a single game, but they do need to take that success they've had midweek and put that towards the weekend series.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that I'm writing my story on for tomorrow that you can catch in the Eagle, this is Wednesday, so in the Thursday's edition of the Eagle, is the fact that they suffered a lot of injuries early in the season with Cly Harrison, with Trevor Warner, Cly Harrison at shortstop, Trevor Warner at third base, Ryan Targach, who was playing second, filled in at short and third in some of those situations. He's back, but Warner and Cly Harrison are still out, and that left a really big gap in the infield. And Austin Boast, who was an outfielder who had played some third base in his past, apparently knocked on Jim Schlossnagle's door and said, "Hey, I see where the lineup, where we're having some issues. I see where we're not being able to get some of our good bats in. Put me at second base. I can do it." And the first time he ever started a D1 college game at second base was that LSU series. And that LSU series is where things have been trending upwards for the bats. The bats have not really been a problem for A&M since this conference slate has started. It's been able to get Dylan Rock into left field where Austin Boast was playing. Austin Boast is at second. Even Brett Minich, who's a right fielder, said they have Logan Britt batting eighth, and he might be the best 8-hole hitter in the league with what he can, the power that he has. So it is interesting how just shuffling that one little piece has kind of been able to turn the key and unlock everything. And Boast hasn't been playing bad defense. I don't know what y'all two have been able to see, but what stood out to you about Austin Boast so far?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, the fact that A&M's been able to, on the fly kind of adjust their lineup, that's been big. I mean, Cly Harrison, he was kind of a bright spot for the team last year. And yeah, I mean, obviously Dylan Rock, he's been hitting it pretty well, and just being able to really get the offense going, knowing that the bullpen has been struggling. You mentioned the injuries in the field, on the mound too. You think about the losses of Trey Dillard and some of the other guys, and now Christian Curtis. I mean, A&M's just been really feeling the injury bug, and so being able to fill those holes with a little bit of success, I mean, that certainly helps as A&M's trying to fight along here through conference play.
It was really interesting hearing Schloss talk about Austin Boast and the need to get his bat in the lineup, but having a hard time putting him in exactly the right spot, obviously playing a lot of outfield, and then saying, hey, look, he can play a serviceable second base. And some could even argue that some of the plays, especially that he's made at times, have been above serviceable. It's been pretty dang good at second base. So being able to put him in there, keep his bat in the lineup while also having a good defender in the infield has really been one of the good things that's happened for the Aggies this year, in a year that's had a lot of unfortunate events as far as injuries go. But yeah, that's been huge. Just having that lineup 1 through 9 stay as strong as possible, being able to put your best bats out there has certainly paid off dividends. I think as the weather warms up, as guys start to get in the swing of things, the bats start to come around. It's hard to be on fire right when the season begins, right? But right now, A&M is batting pretty well up 1 through 9. They just need to get the starting rotation in set and get those guys on track. And then, of course, the bullpen has been the big question throughout the year. Can they right the ship on the back end of things? So we'll see if they can do that this weekend.
Yeah, and the bullpen will have their hands full because Kentucky enters as the 37th best team in the nation, 5th in the SEC in batting average, batting .298 as a team. They're also 28th in the nation with doubles with 63, and 29th with hits at 298 this season. They can hit the ball. They also have a pitcher, Chase Eastip, who is, Darren Williams, pitcher, who is 6th in the nation in ERA at 0.93. So pretty good all-around team. Another good SEC test. See if they can be able to have that kind of underdog mentality going into it.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all have noticed, but it's pretty windy around here this week.
Yeah.
So we'll see which way the wind's blowing, but if it's blowing out, there could be some balls go out of the yard.
You're going to probably want to be sure to park for that baseball game extra early, because, like we said, there is everything going on in Aggie Land this weekend, and one of those things is spring football. The maroon and white game, the culmination of spring football happens. We're going to talk a little bit of Texas A&M football after this break. Welcome back to the My Aggie Nation Podcast. I'm Travis Brown. Over there, Alex Miller, Zach Taylor on the interwebs, joining us there from his WTAW studios. Football, A&M football. I'll be the first to admit that because of NIT going long, the men's basketball season going long, and baseball going on, I haven't been to a single spring football practice this year. Alex, I know you've been to a lot of them. Zach, do you usually check out the spring football practice? Do you watch some stretching?
Well, typically with my day starting at 4:30 here in the studio, I usually don't make it to the stretching and warm up portions. Obviously, I get to talk a little bit with Jimbo Fisher, but I try to make it to at least a couple throughout the spring. But I'm not there day in, day out like some of our media brethren.
And you do have a mini me that's taking up some of your time as well.
Yeah,
now,
it's weird how kids do that, right?
Yeah. So I will add on to that we're hearing good reports about stuff, as you always do during spring ball. A lot of good defensive lineman action, a lot of good things we're hearing from the wide receivers and the tight ends. Alex, what is the position group that you focused in on a little bit more you were able to see in the few times that you were out there watching?
Yeah, I think everybody, of course, wants to talk about the quarterbacks. I mean, I think Jimbo's made it pretty clear it's a pretty tight race. Some of the positions that I've focused on, a guy that's really stood out to me is Evan Stewart at wide receiver. I mean, he was the big catch per se in the 2022 class, and he's A&M's hoping he's going to be that guy who's that downfield explosive threat, that piece that they've kind of just been missing in the offense, where they haven't had the consistent playmaker that can go downfield. He's already worked his way up to the starting lineup. I mean, that says a lot in itself. Jimbo's offense, from what we've been able to gather, it's not something you can just pick up overnight necessarily. And you've seen how even some of A&M's best playmakers over the years under Jimbo, you think about Anais Smith and Jalen Wademeyer, even Kellen Mond, who turned out to be a pretty good quarterback, it took them time to really grasp the offense and really get into a groove in that system. It seems like Evan Stewart's been able to pick that up from the get-go, and that's a huge plus for A&M. You look at across the board too. There's a lot of guys out with injury, which we already knew and we've talked about. So you've seen a lot of the younger guys getting in some reps. At running back is very thin right now. That's kind of an interesting position with Devon A-Chain doing track, LJ Johnson being nicked up with a hamstring. You've seen a little more of Anais Smith back there at running back. You'll probably see that on Saturday as well. I'm really curious how Amari Daniels and Ernest Crownover look. They're two very different backs. Daniels is kind of the home run threat. Crownover, if he put 10 more pounds of muscle on himself, he'd probably look like Derrick Henry. So I mean, it's kind of the A-Chain LJ Johnson. And so with that being said, at receiver you've kind of got some interesting looks going on. Moose Muhammad's getting some more looks, but on defense too. I mean, it's a total rework on the defensive line, and they're missing some starters up there too, with McKinley Jackson out and a couple others, but guys like Shamar Turner, Tumise Adelie, Fadil Diggs has had a really good spring. And then Jimbo's been real big on his linebackers. That's been a veteran core. At defensive back, they're missing some starters there as well with Tyreek Chappelle and Jalen Jones. Antonio Johnson's been out with a minor injury. So you're seeing a lot of the younger guys, it seems like, out there too, with Bryce Anderson, Denver Harris. Jardin Gilbert's been a guy that's been talked a lot this spring. So, there's going to be a lot of youth on the field, it seems like, on Saturday. And you got to put a little asterisk next to it, knowing that there's a lot of returning starters that would be on the field if it weren't for some of these minor injuries that they're being held out for. But I know I just kind of rambled all over the field, kind of like how Jimbo does in his press conference. But yeah, it's just kind of all over the place, it seems like.
We talked a lot about the wide receivers here. The two things that I'm looking for most in this wide receiver group. It seems like for the last 3 years, basically since Jimbo's been here, they've had a really good stable of possession receivers. And I'd like to see who's going to be the home run threat, which Caleb Chapman looked like he could be that guy if he could stay healthy with the speed. Who's going to be the home run threat, and who's going to be that one guy that they have that can actually go up and high point a ball, that can go vertical and be the kind of vertical threat that they really haven't had it since. And y'all can help me out here. Maybe Ricky Seals-Jones, but even Ricky Seals-Jones wasn't necessarily that great at high pointing the ball when he was in college. I don't know who you can say. Maybe was it Damian Ratley?
It would have to be Evans. At least sticking out to me. I don't remember Ricky Seals-Jones really going up and taking 50 balls.
He had the body where he should have been that guy.
He should have been, yes.
Josh Reynolds made some pretty big plays.
Yeah, Josh
Reynolds was a really good receiver.
He was able to go up and high point and be that guy that if you do want to throw a corner fade to the end zone when you're inside, you have a guy who's going to go up and give they haven't had that really. Even Christian Kirk wasn't really even that guy. He was a possession receiver. Jamon Osmond was a possession receiver. I want to see if they have some guys who can be that home run threat and who can be that guy who can go up and get a ball.
I'll tell you a guy who we've already seen go up and get it is Moose Muhammad.
Yeah.
Now, it was in limited play and against maybe some inferior talent at times, but he's shown that he has that capability in game. Now, I have no idea what these guys were showing in practice last year, but again, Moose Muhammad was a dude that you saw him make some plays, and you're thinking, why isn't he getting more playing time? And lots of folks were asking about Damon Demas. Demas did get quite a bit of playing time last year, and I don't recall seeing that a lot from him. I don't recall having seen the lightning speed and being able to break away from the defenders and going up and grabbing the 50-50 balls. Everybody remembers the Ole Miss game. Well, that's a non-factor at this point with Demas now gone from the program. So you're thinking, well, who is going to be the next big guy? Who's going to be the next big thing, the big athletic player? Evan Stewart has obviously been on everyone's mind. There are plenty of other players that have come into the fold. I'm looking at wide receiver, but as far as the passing game goes, we know how much Jimbo Fisher loves the tight end. We know how much it has been used. And since he got here to Texas A&M, look at his career. It's been used the entire time. Who is going to be that guy that fills Jalen Watermeyer's shoes? Baylor Cupp was supposed to be the guy. He's now in the transfer portal. So you're looking at some really talented but very young players. Who is going to be the safety blanket, so to speak, that can play at tight end, make the big catches on third and short, what have you, and being able to fill those shoes in that role?
Well, and if you have the home run threat playing like a true X, if you have another guy out wide who is your go-get-it guy or can stretch the defense a little bit, then you can actually play Ainias Smith where he's supposed to be being played in the slot. Yeah. Or running the slot type routes, no matter where he's lined up, and he can be your security blanket. I think too many times they knew last year that if you put guys on Weidermeyer, and even if you didn't, because he was really prone to drop the ball last year, and you put guys on Smith, you could let those other guys beat you a little bit. And I think that maybe if you have a few more threats like that, Ainias Smith could be that guy. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, and so to each of your points, I think we're talking about who can be that go-getter person, and Zach mentioning how much the tight end is involved with Jimbo's offense. Yeah, of course. Jay Sternberger was that guy. Jalen Watermeyer was that. How many times on third down did we see Jalen Watermeyer run like a 10-yard in, and you knew exactly where it was going, and then the defense couldn't cover it, and he got a first down for A&M, especially when they went 9-1, best team on third down in the country. With Baylor Cupp gone, it seems like Jake Johnson is the guy that's really coming along just from watching practice, hearing things. He's really the guy that, if he continues on that trajectory that he's been going on, he's a guy that could potentially start from day one. And, Max Wright, he's clearly a veteran guy that's back. They've got some younger guys at tight end. It was interesting. I feel like back on signing day we were talking. Travis, your big thing was like, what are they going to do with all these tight ends? And here we go. They're starting to they're starting to pan out and see where they fall in line. And they've got two more coming in with Donovan Green and Theo Olstrom from Sweden. So Jake Johnson seems to be the guy. How interesting would it be to see Johnson and Johnson on the connection? I don't think that's outlandish. I don't think it's outlandish. And but
baby powder combo.
But I think that if there's a guy to watch, it's Jake Johnson. I'm curious if he ends up playing on Saturday because we know he's been out for a little bit of spring ball with a little bit of a leg injury. But that's certainly a key position to watch in terms of the possession guy because that is A&M's possession guy is the tight end spot. Chase Lane returns. Jamon Osmond was kind of a possession guy. Pretty good at catching the ball. You threw it to him. It was going to be a completion.
But they've all been possession guys.
Yeah, they've all been possession guys. And I think Evan Stewart's going to be that game breaker dude if he continues on this trajectory. From hearing Damani Richardson on Tuesday, he said the two guys he wants to go up against in practice is Anais Smith and Evan Stewart. And he listed Evan Stewart first. So we know what Anais Smith brings to the table for A&M. We know how good of a route runner and how hard of a matchup he is. And Damani said he likes going against him because it improves his technique. So what does that say about Evan Stewart's route running ability and his athleticism for the senior guy on the team to already want to go against him on one-on-ones? So, you've seen glimpses of that in practice where, they're doing cone drills and stuff. But, I think Saturday is really going to be, the chance to look in and see. I think one other spot I've got an eye on, too, is that tackle spot opposite of Reuven Fothery. Because Fothery is for sure gonna hold down one of those spots. But who's going to be that other guy? Trey Zune seems to be having a pretty good spring ball. And
PJ Williams could slide in there.
So it seems like Zune's kind of the front runner right now. So I'm pretty curious to see how the O-line gels. A&M's got a lot of depth at guard. Bryce Foster's going to be your center. How does it shake out with that tackle spot on the other end, replacing Kenyon Green?
Real quick before we get to our last subject, I know you have the list of injuries of guys that we probably won't expect to see in the spring game. Run down that real quick so we get that out in the podcast world.
Well, I've actually left that list in the other room.
Well, then we're not going to do that. So we'll just go ahead and get to that last subject, and that is let's go ahead right now and get on record, get on tape, who we think – what we think the quarterback order is going to be this fall. But let's do it. Let's do it pre-spring game. So next week we can come back and see how wrong we were in our pre-spring game estimates, because that's what this is all about, right?
Our way too early predictions.
Isn't podcasting and previewing all just about seeing how wrong you are every time?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I'll go first.
We're wrong more than right.
I'll go first because I'm the one who brought it up. I think the way I've been putting it with people is if I was to bet my money is on Haynes King to start. If I'm betting Alex Miller's money, it's going to be Connor Wigman to start. Because I just the way that Jimbo talks about him, there's something special there that I could see him wanting that rising through the cream of the crop. Now, that might have changed a little bit when we were talking to some of the players yesterday, and they said that he's still making some rookie mistakes. He's making some freshman mistakes, but everyone said it was Anaya said that he would trust him to go out there right now and be QB1 if his number was called. So I think you got to lean on Haynes King. I'm going to say Haynes King, Connor Wegman, Max Johnson's the way it's going to finish, but they probably will run Max Johnson out as the backup if it fell that way, just because of years they have eligibility and stuff like that. Zach, what say you?
I think I've been pretty vocal and probably...
You're always pretty vocal.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'm the radio guy, right? But a little bit more than other folks that cover the team. I think it's Haynes King's job to lose. I know that everyone saw him in limited play last year, but... and we talk about the success that Connor Wigman had in high school and the dual threat kind of talent that he had. Haynes King was a blue chip recruit too. Now, maybe not on the exact same level as Connor Wigman, but he was a pretty dang good player coming out of Longview High School a few years ago. And he was supposed to be the heir apparent last year. He just got hurt early on in the second game of his regular season career. So I think with his knowledge of the offense, having worked with Jimbo Fisher, and just his talent. I think he's a talented quarterback. I think he is going to be your starter. I think that Max Johnson is going to be the number 2 guy because he is a veteran. He has experience. If you have a situation like you did this past year where, and hopefully you don't, you never want to see a guy get hurt. But if Haynes King were to go down with something or just be out of the game, Max Johnson has that experience that he can come in, I think, and take over the reins and lead a team and not be overwhelmed. I think that we saw at times where Zach Calzada was overwhelmed this season, and that was because probably some lack of experience. I think that you would say the same thing with Connor Wigman. And I agree with you, and I hadn't really thought about it much until you brought it up. But yeah, you very well could have Connor Wigman just as a red shirt for this season. You have him there in case you get him as many snaps in practice as you can. He continues to learn the offense, and he is a very, very talented guy who, could be a Heisman Trophy winner for all we know. I mean, I think he has that kind of talent, but he's still so young. And why play an 18-year-old when you've got a 21-year-old who is experienced and pretty talented in his own right in Haynes King, and then you've got a veteran in Max Johnson who's won some big ball games. So I think it's going to go King, Johnson, Wigman. The only way that changes is if somebody gets hurt throughout the year. And even if Haynes King does get injured, I think Max Johnson's going to be the guy they call on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo the sentiment you guys have. I think it's Haynes King's job to lose. I think Connor Wigman will end up being his biggest competition. But yeah, I think I see it going Haynes King as starter, Max Johnson the backup, and Wigman third, just for eligibility's sake. Just from hearing what Jimbo's saying about Connor Wigman, quick learner, competitor, but we've also known that Haynes King has also had the same thing said about himself. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that it takes time for a quarterback, especially quarterback, to get a grasp of Jimbo's offense. You look at what Kellen Mond was year 1 in Jimbo's offense versus his last year 3. I mean, just night and day difference. And, this will be Haynes King's 3rd year in Jimbo's offense. This is Connor Wigman's 3rd month in Jimbo's offense. Same with Max Johnson. Your floor's a little higher probably with Max Johnson, given he's got a full season in the SEC under his belt. He's got experience. But at the same time, Haynes has been the guy. He's already been named the starter before. It's his job to lose, but the talent in Connor Wigman speaks for itself. Just watching in practice, he throws the best ball. You've seen on tape and when he was in high school, just the competitiveness and the drive that he's got. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a tight battle that continues into August. But, I'll say Haynes King is the guy to beat right now.
Well, it's a busy week full of all kinds of things going on. A busy weekend, everything. We'll be at spring football. Zach, you going to watch it all from the comfort of the couch?
So I actually have an event that I'm doing with my church on Saturday.
Yeah,
there we go.
Game even was. So we are doing an egg hunt with the kiddos at Wolfpen Creek Park. So I will be emceeing the event and trying to stay out of traffic.
Will you or won't you be dressed as the actual Easter Bunny?
I will not be dressed as the Easter Bunny. Can't talk.
Why not? Yes, it can.
Because that's not how it works. No. When was the last time you saw a talking Easter Bunny?
I feel like that's
exactly,
not a thing.
Exactly. He's not supposed to talk. I can't be the MC and be the Easter Bunny at the same time.
He's got a point.
Well, I guess you do. Well, anyway, that being said, all kinds of things to do this weekend. Go check it out. We also have a great story on the Eagle. I shouldn't say it's great. I did write it. But a story on the Eagle about the PBR event that's happening. You can be the judge if it's great or not. So go check that out as well. And be sure to continue to check theeagle.com and tune into WTAW each and every day for more updates on the Aggies goings-on. So, for Zach Taylor and Alex Miller, I'm Travis Brown. This is the My Aggie Nation Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
It seems like every day, everything just has a way to burst at the seams. But if we don't watch what we're doing, our hearts will get ruined by silly things. sure you're sticking with me. But I wanna make sure that we'll be all that we can be, all that we can be, all that we can be.